They control you with silence. They make you question your own memory. They hurt you, then turn around and ask, why are you overreacting? That's not love. That's a relationship with a narcissist. They don't care how you feel. They just want you silent, obedient, and endlessly feeding their ego. And how long have you lived like that? A year? 5? A lifetime? Today, we're talking about a turning point, one that could change your life forever. No contact. No texts, no calls, no explanations. No more playing a game that only they can win. But how do you actually pull it off? How do you stop feeling guilty? How do you resist the tears, the threats, the fake apologies? This video will walk you through not just the steps, but the mindset, the boundaries, and the inner strength you'll need when they try to sneak back in one last time. This is for the ones who've had enough. Hit subscribe and watch until the end, because you deserve peace, and no one has the right to take that from you. So what exactly is no contact? No contact isn't some impulsive decision. It's the result of hundreds of sleepless nights. Lying in bed asking yourself, am I overreacting? Can this still be saved? Am I the one at fault? You forgave, you tried, you waited for a miracle, but then one day you realized there's no miracle coming. They're not going to change. And slowly, you're losing yourself. No contact is when you finally choose to stop. Stop trying to understand them. Stop trying to explain yourself. Stop holding on to something that only causes you more pain day after day. In the most practical terms, no contact means no texts, no calls, no social media following, no accidental appearances in places they frequent, no liking their cryptic posts to see if they notice. Nothing. No means no. Because every little string you leave behind, even a polite message or a glance in passing, becomes a thread they can grab to pull you back in, wearing a new mask, ready to restart the cycle of damage. Some might say, that sounds too extreme. But here's the truth. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. You cannot negotiate with someone who twists your logic, distorts the truth, and blames you, all to justify keeping control. Imagine being severely allergic to a food. Would you take just one bite out of guilt or politeness? Of course not, because you know the consequences. Loving a narcissist isn't just about emotional attachment. You get trapped in a broken system where they drain your life force like a battery, and they'll keep doing it until you're completely depleted, until you can no longer tell where you end and they begin. No contact is how you pull the emergency brake. It's how you say, enough. Not because you hate them, but because finally you've started loving yourself. But if it were that simple, you would have left long ago. Life isn't black and white. Life is messy. It's kids, it's family ties, it's obligations, it's questions like, what about his mother? What about your father? We still share a house, a child, a life. Then the self-doubt creeps in. Am I being too rigid? And the voices around you say, come on, they're still family. Don't make a big deal out of it. No one's perfect. Just learn to tolerate it. But they don't know what you've endured. They didn't see you cry in the bathroom after being called too sensitive. They didn't hear the mocking laughter when you were humiliated in public, only to receive a fake hug as an apology. They don't live with the anxiety that hits every time your phone rings, because you don't know if it'll be a sweet word or another emotional ambush. No contact isn't running away. It's a declaration. It's the moment you say to the world and to yourself, I refuse to be hurt any longer. I deserve peace. And the miraculous thing is, when you truly go no contact, yes, it'll hurt at first, but then you'll start to feel lighter, much lighter, as if someone finally lifted a stone off your chest. You'll sleep better. You'll breathe deeper. You'll smile and mean it. That's the first step to freedom. Not just freedom from them, but freedom from the version of yourself you had to become to survive them. Eventually, you realize that no contact is the first step toward reclaiming your inner freedom. But theory is never that simple when applied to real life. Your world doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's intertwined with children, parents, finances, community, work, legal obligations, things you can't just block and walk away from. That's why, although no contact may be the ideal, it isn't always practical. And if you're in a situation where full detachment is impossible, don't let anyone make you feel weak or less healed. You're not fragile, you're entangled. What you need isn't judgment, but a functional strategy. This is where the concept of low contact comes in. Low contact is the bridge between I can't leave yet and I still need to survive. It's the path for people who can't vanish, but who can no longer endure constant exposure to toxicity. It's not a sign of surrender. It's a calculated form of self-protection. In practice, low contact involves three main tools: gray rock, yellow rock, and firewalling, each designed for different levels of contact and distinct emotional terrains. All serve one purpose: to reduce the narcissist's access to your energy while maintaining functionality in unavoidable circumstances. Let's start with gray rock, becoming as bland and lifeless as a gray rock. This strategy is brutally simple. You respond as though you're not really there. No emotions, no engagement, no personal information. Your answers are flat, neutral, one-word replies. Okay, sure, noted. There's no back and forth, no emotional availability, and definitely no fuel for drama. However, gray rock comes with a cost. The emotional void you create can be misinterpreted by outsiders, or worse, weaponized by the narcissist. Why are you so cold? What's wrong with you now? Or the snide jab, let me guess, therapy told you to do this? If you're not grounded in your reasons, this detachment can turn inward, making you feel robotic, numb, even hollow. That's why gray rock only works if you're mentally prepared to handle the silence you've chosen. If gray rock is full emotional withdrawal, then yellow rock is its warmer, more socially strategic cousin, detachment with a human touch. Instead of saying, sure, you might say, thanks, I hope you're having a good day, or got it, take care. You maintain boundaries. You don't overshare. But you also avoid creating unnecessary tension, especially useful in co-parenting dynamics or shared environments where others are watching. The key to yellow rock is balance. You're not giving emotional access, but you're also not signaling hostility. You communicate with grace, deliver facts with civility, and exit conversations quickly. Because you understand, kindness has limits, and compassion requires boundaries. But what happens when you still need to exchange information, yet you don't want that information to be used against you? That's when you level up to firewalling. Just like protecting your computer from data breaches, but this time, it's your emotional system on the line. With firewalling, you become hyper-intentional about every piece of information you give. No personal updates, no vulnerable stories, no long explanations. You don't vent, you don't confide. You don't offer insight into your struggles, healing, or private thoughts, because you know anything you reveal can and will be turned into ammunition later. And firewalling doesn't stop at what you share. It also applies to what you receive. You don't listen to emotionally manipulative voicemails. You don't read rage-filled emails. You don't absorb guilt trips or subtle jabs disguised as concern. You learn how to delete without guilt. Like avoiding a sketchy link online, you don't open the door to what could infect your peace. Ultimately, whether you're using gray rock, yellow rock, or firewalling, the core principle remains the same. Control your attention and energy. Every reaction is fuel. Every word is a doorway. Every emotional response, even silence laced with tension, is a signal that they still have a hold on you. Low contact is not weakness. In fact, it takes immense strength, because you're choosing to coexist with your abuser while refusing to let them define you. It's the art of surviving without surrendering. And if you're in that space, trying to stay grounded while still dealing with someone who once dismantled you, know this: you are not failing. You are adapting. You are protecting your peace by any means necessary. In a world that praises cutting off like it's the only sign of healing, we forget that sometimes staying in the arena while building walls around your soul is the braver act. You're not disappearing. You're enduring with clarity, and that clarity is power. So whether you limit your conversations, speak only about logistics, or guard your emotional code like it's the root password to your sanity, you are not retreating. You are defending, thoughtfully, skillfully, quietly. And perhaps that's the greatest victory of all, to be in the presence of someone who once dismantled you and no longer allow them access to anything that matters. If low contact is the art of setting boundaries while coexisting with toxicity, then no contact, when you're finally ready, becomes the ultimate declaration of personal freedom. But here's the paradox. How you leave often matters as much as the fact that you leave. One of the most common mistakes people make at the beginning of their no-contact journey is this. They warn the narcissist in advance. They want to be respectful. They want to end things clearly. They want to give the other person a reason to avoid misunderstandings. But this isn't a breakup between two emotionally mature adults. You're not ending a relationship. You're cutting ties with someone who survives on control, manipulation, and distorting reality. And the moment you say, I'm going no contact, you've unintentionally triggered one of the narcissist's most primitive psychological reflexes, the need to reassert power. To them, this isn't a sad goodbye, it's war. Here's what you must understand. To a narcissist, no contact doesn't mean you're walking away. It means you're daring to walk away. You're cutting the supply. You're refusing to feed their ego. You're acting without asking for permission. And for a fragile ego built entirely on dominance and control, your silence is the ultimate insult. If you declare, I won't speak to you anymore, you haven't closed the door. You've invited them to break it down. You've given them a window to respond, to react, to twist, to re-engage you with guilt, love bombing, fake promises, and when those don't work, threats, smear campaigns, and emotional warfare. In doing so, you're sucked right back into the game, the same exhausting loop of defense, confusion, and self-doubt you were trying to escape. Now, contrast that with this. What happens when you disappear without warning? No dramatic exits, no explanations, no long speeches. First, they're confused. They think you're just mad. Then they get annoyed. The messages start pouring in. Calls, voice memos, emojis. Then they flip between charm and contempt, from sweet promises to subtle jabs. But when you don't react, don't explain, don't give them even one emotional cue, they panic. Because for the first time, they don't know what you're thinking. They can't read your energy. They can't provoke a response. They can't reestablish control. That's when the power begins to shift. You didn't have to argue. You didn't need a final conversation. You didn't need closure. You simply removed your energy from the game. And without a player, the narcissist's whole setup collapses. Remember, for the narcissist, your energy is the supply. They don't need your love. They just need your reaction. And when you stop reacting, they lose their audience, their stage, their script. Your silence in their world is a direct attack on their sense of control. So if you're preparing to go no contact, don't let politeness become your trap. You don't need to send, I think we should take some space. I'm going to block your number, but I wish you well. Please don't take this personally. I just need to focus on myself. You don't owe them any farewell, because anything you say will be seen as an entry point, and they will use it to squeeze their way back in. Now, that doesn't mean you should vanish recklessly. If you live with them, share custody, or have financial or legal entanglements, you need a safe and strategic exit plan. This might include moving out without prior notice, if necessary, setting up a legal co-parenting app like Talking Parents or Our Family Wizard, establishing hard emotional firewalls. They can only contact you for logistics, not for emotional engagement. And if others ask, why didn't you just end it the right way? You don't owe them a detailed explanation. You're not running away. You're simply choosing silence as a means of survival. But why does silence carry so much power? Because silence is the one language a narcissist cannot speak. They can't manipulate it. They can't control it. They can't twist it into something else. And more importantly, silence forces them to confront the one thing they've been avoiding their whole life, themselves. Without you there to mirror, react, validate, or absorb, they're left in a void they cannot fill. They either scramble to replace you or implode under their own emptiness. So remember, you don't need to win the argument. You just need to stop playing the game. And when you walk away from the table, they may yell, throw accusations, play victim, or rage. But you're not there anymore. And that right there is your real victory. You think that if you stay silent, everything will calm down. You believe that if you pull back, they'll understand and finally leave you alone. But you're wrong. With a normal person, silence signals closure. But to a narcissist, silence isn't the end. It's an insult. It's a challenge. It's an act of rebellion that wasn't announced. And the very moment you stop responding, stop chasing, stop explaining or defending yourself, is the moment you trigger what they fear most: powerlessness. A narcissist cannot tolerate the feeling of losing control, and you've just taken away the emotional fuel they feed on: your reaction. This stage is a turning point. It's not the peace you expected. It's the final storm before the sky clears. Because when you stop reacting, they don't accept it. They resist. And they resist hard. It starts subtly. A check-in text, a random emoji, a vague status, a missed call, a one-word message, If you once longed for their remorse, this is when they play that part flawlessly. They apologize, they act enlightened, they bring up shared memories. But this time, you're not falling for it. You've changed. You're no longer naive. You've started seeing the pattern. And when you don't respond, when their fake remorse doesn't work, the mask comes off. The charm turns into rage. The victim role flips into blame. One moment, their messages are venomous. The next, they're sweet again. They rotate through every role. The hurt lover, the kind soul, the furious ex, the one who just can't let go, anything to provoke a reaction. Because to them, your response is confirmation that they still exist in your mind. And if you refuse to give them that, they begin to unravel. That's when the escalation begins. They might fabricate stories, smear you to mutual acquaintances, spread lies. Tell your friends you're unstable, careless, cruel. They manipulate social circles, even your own family, to pull sympathy in their direction. And if you share parenting, finances, or assets, they'll use every entanglement to draw you back into the battlefield. What's most terrifying isn't their attack. It's how you begin to question yourself. Comments like, "Why not just handle it maturely? Why the silent treatment? Nobody's perfect. Don't be so harsh," can shake your resolve. But you need to remember, no one else lives your life. No one else heard you sobbing behind closed doors. No one saw the look of contempt in their eyes or endured the cutting words they used to slowly dismantle your self-worth. No one else knows how many times you forgave, how much you tolerated, how far you lost yourself, except you. And when all other control tactics fail, the narcissist will go for the jugular, the things you love most. They'll attack your children, threaten custody, triangulate you through third parties, resurrect painful memories, bring up your deepest fears, all to shake you, all to trigger you. But you're not that person anymore. You don't need to scream to defend yourself. You don't need to write a heartfelt message to justify your actions. You've learned. The things that most provoke a reaction in you are often the very things you must walk away from. Your strength now doesn't lie in proving your case. It lies in not playing their game. Not responding doesn't mean you're weak. It is a conscious, calculated move. It's a strategy to protect yourself from emotional quicksand. It's the way you preserve what little of yourself you have left. And the more you stay silent, the more they reveal who they truly are. They'll expose themselves. You don't need to call them out. They'll unravel on their own. During this phase, you'll be tempted to text back to say just one last thing to end it properly. But remember, you don't need closure with a narcissist. What you need is closure with the old version of yourself, the one who gave too much to someone who never deserved it. And when you survive this storm without reacting, a new kind of peace begins to settle. Not because they've changed, but because you've stopped expecting anything from them. You no longer flinch when the phone buzzes. You're no longer afraid of hearing their voice. You no longer feel guilty for choosing yourself. You'll feel light, a lightness that doesn't need explanation. As if someone finally lifted the boulder off your chest, the one you had learned to live with so long, you'd forgotten how it felt to breathe fully. You're not silent because you don't care. You're silent because you finally know the most valuable gift you can give yourself isn't revenge. It's peace. It's not about winning, it's about exiting. It's not about proving, it's about walking away. And that is true freedom. Many people, especially those with big hearts, deep empathy, and a memory filled with love, feel an overwhelming sense of guilt when faced with the decision to cut ties with someone they once loved. Whether it's a partner, an ex, or even a biological parent, the guilt creeps in like a whisper. What if they think I'm heartless? What if something happens to them and no one's there? What if they smear my name to the whole family? These aren't just fears of being misunderstood. They reflect the soul of someone who has loved too much and sacrificed too deeply. But love does not mean setting yours to keep someone else warm. Love does not mean allowing someone to use affection as a weapon that slowly suffocates you. You may be someone who loves deeply, but you are not obligated to suffer endlessly for someone else's chaos. Going no contact is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of self-preservation. It is not the move of someone selfish. It is the final decision of someone who simply cannot endure anymore. No one chooses no contact because they want to create pain. They choose it because there's no other way to survive. They've talked, they've cried, they've pleaded, they've forgiven, they've hoped, hundreds of times. But when every effort is met with denial, cruelty, or manipulation, retreat becomes the only way forward. It's not an escape, it's a breakthrough, a step out of the cycle of destruction and into the light you always deserved. You do not need validation from others to justify why you walked away. You don't need approval to confirm that the pain you endured was real. No one but you knows the nights you lay awake over a single cutting comment, or how one act of humiliation shattered your sense of worth. And when you choose to end it, you are doing the bravest thing possible. You're choosing yourself. In a world that has taught you again and again that you are not enough, healing is never selfish. It's the foundation of every good thing that can come afterward. Healthy love, restored self-respect, and a life no longer dictated by fear. When you go no contact, you are not slamming the door shut out of hatred. You are closing it because what's on the other side is burning you alive. You deserve peace that doesn't come with conditions. You deserve to wake up without anxiety. You deserve relationships that don't make you guess whether today you'll be loved or humiliated. No contact is your way of telling the world and yourself, I've tried hard enough. Now it's time to live, not just survive. And here's what's truly powerful. When you begin to heal, you're not only saving yourself, you are silently breaking a toxic cycle that may have been running through generations. You are rewriting the meaning of love. No longer control, but presence with boundaries. You're no longer loving blindly. You're loving consciously. And that's not just self-preservation, that's sacred. And then, just when you've finally gathered enough strength to walk away, just when you're beginning to feel the first fragile moments of peace after years of emotional manipulation, another wave crashes over you, not from the narcissist, but from the people around you. Family, friends, coworkers, people who never saw what happened behind closed doors. They start asking questions, offering opinions, even passing judgment. You stop talking to your own mother? That's cold. But he's still the father of your kids. How could you be so cruel? Everyone has flaws. Why can't you just be more forgiving? Here's the painful truth. To outsiders, the narcissist still looks like the nice one. They're charming, polished, socially skilled. They know how to play the role, to cry at the right time, to act humble, to say all the right things about you in public. And you, the one who chose to walk away, to stay silent, now look like the dramatic one, the heartless one, the one who went too far. They don't see the nights you couldn't sleep. They don't see your body tense up at the sound of their voice. They didn't hear you sobbing in the bathroom trying to make sense of why love always felt like pain. They only see your silence today, not the scars that silence was built upon. You don't need everyone to understand you, but you do need to be prepared for misunderstanding. Some people will turn their backs on you. Others will stay neutral, but their neutrality will quietly side with the abuser. Some will try to mediate, urging you to just meet in the middle, take the high road, or let bygones be bygones. But they don't understand that every time you compromised, you lost a little more of yourself. This is one of the most difficult parts of going no contact. You're not just walking away from the narcissist. Sometimes you're walking away from those who aren't capable of understanding why you had to go. But here's the truth. Not everyone is emotionally mature enough to recognize toxicity when it's dressed in respectability. And not everyone is brave enough to do what you're doing, to end a generational cycle, even when the cost is loneliness, misunderstanding, and the withdrawal of support from those you once trusted. Still, you don't need anyone's permission to begin healing. You don't need society's moral approval to reclaim your peace. You don't need a collective vote to declare that you have the right to be free. And one day, when you're stronger, when the wounds have scabbed over, you'll look back and realize something powerful. The people who doubted you weren't necessarily bad. They just never had to survive the kind of pain you did. But you did. You saw it. You lived it. And you chose to walk away. No contact is not cruelty. It's a boundary, not to punish others, but to protect what's left of you. And if someone still doesn't understand that, they don't need to. As long as you understand it, that's enough. In the end, you'll realize this. Going no contact isn't a single impulsive act. It's the result of hundreds of silent heartbreaks, thousands of moments where you forgave without being appreciated, and millions of questions you asked yourself until one day you simply couldn't take it anymore. Not because you were weak, but because you had finally become strong enough to say, I deserve better than this. You've been through the self-doubt, you've faced their manipulative games, you've endured the judgment of others, and you're still standing. You don't need to scream to be believed. You don't need to explain to be valid. Because deep down you know the cost of staying was far greater than the loneliness of leaving. No contact isn't about cutting someone off. It's about coming home to yourself, to clarity, to boundaries you forgot you had the right to set. It's how you say, I choose myself. I choose to live fully, peacefully, and freely without having to suffer anymore. And if anyone out there is hearing these words, sitting in confusion, torn between leaving and staying, remember this. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not heartless for setting boundaries. And you are not cruel for stepping away from a script you never wrote. Healing is a long journey, but no contact is the first courageous step. It's a quiet but powerful declaration. I've had enough, and I don't need another reason to let go. Because you deserve more. You deserve relationships where you don't have to prove your worth. You deserve love that doesn't come with strings, control, or psychological games. You deserve a life free from the haunting feeling that you're never enough. And know this, you're not alone. There are millions like you who loved deeply, broke silently, and had to walk away without applause. But they stood back up, they healed, and they lived for the first time for themselves. And you will too. It all begins with one brave decision to stop. From there, everything better begins.